we go.
We're here today with Windsor Heights City Council candidate Michael Libbie. Good morning, Michael.
Morning, Jonathan.
How are you today?
I'm doing well, thank God. You know, it's about 6 days before Election Day on the 7th of November, and I've knocked so far 1,000 doors in Windsor Heights, so it's been fun.
Good deal. Tell us about yourself. Who is Michael Libbie?
You know, I'm pretty simple. My hometown is Detroit, Michigan. I was in the broadcasting industry. I did television and radio in Paducah, Kentucky, and then moved to Illinois. And after Illinois, I looked down a map one day and I said, what is this place called Iowa? And so I had two job offers. One was in Panama City, Florida, and the other one was in Fort Dodge, Iowa. And of course I called Panama City, Florida first. And after the discussion, I said, well, how much money? You know, what are we talking about? And they said, we've got beautiful studios here in Panama City. And I said, well, how much money? And they said, you're going to love the weather down here. It's just absolutely perfect. I said, okay, hold on. So I made a phone call to the Chicago Rabbinical Council, CRC, and I said, is there a synagogue in Fort Dodge, Iowa? And they said, as a matter of fact, there is. So I contacted the people in Fort Dodge, and I got to the question about how much, and they said, what do you want? Which was a much better answer than what I got in Florida. So hence another phone call, and then we ended up coming to Iowa.
Did you ever find out what they were going to pay you?
I know, I never called back. But this is 1979, April of 79 is when I came to Fort Dodge, and I had to look on a map because I'm thinking, Fort Dodge, Iowa, this sounds a lot like F Troop. You know, so I had to figure out what this was all about. So anyway, that's Fort Dodge, and then I was in radio broadcasting there, and then ended up going to Friendship Haven, the state's largest continuing care retirement community, as the director of development, fundraiser, and public relations, and then went back to school, and then ended up the president and CEO of Friendship Haven. We had 610 residents, I believe it was, and 400 employees. Left there and went into the publishing business with some friends in Windsor Heights and started this business, my advertising agency, in about 2002, 2003, somewhere in there.
Okay.
So, I do the only daily business news broadcast in the Midwest, a plug.
What's the name of it?
It's called Insight on Business, the News Hour. You can find us on AM 940, Monday through Friday, starting at 5 o'clock.
There you go. Why are you running for council?
Well, I wasn't going to run for council. I've been asked to run for a number of offices in the past, Jonathan. I've been asked to run for state offices. I've been asked to run for community offices and here in Windsor Heights, and I always said no. I was always the guy behind the scenes, you know. You and I worked on a congressional campaign together, as a matter of fact, and I worked on a Senate campaign for the Iowa State Senate. I worked on
Which, by the way, has no bearing on this interview,
of course not,
or our recommendation on how folks should vote.
But we've known each other.
Yes, we have.
We have known each other, and then I also worked on a House campaign here in the metro, and so I've been asked to run. I said, no, I'm comfortable doing my own thing. And then I attended a meeting back in August, I think it was, first part of August, with several past mayors from Windsor Heights and several past city council people that were vitally concerned about the direction of Windsor Heights, that if we don't keep moving forward and do some remarkable things about our commercial footprint, about walkability, about the opportunity to take advantage of the public relations opportunities that are with us in the center of the metro, that we could start going backwards. And that wasn't a good option. And so after some thought and conversation with my bride, I said, okay, we're in. So, you know, and it's a short time span. Papers are due the last week, I think, of September, and the election is on the 7th of November, so you don't have much time.
So, what's your vision for the city?
Well, I think we've got three choices, Jonathan. Choice number one, door number one, if you will, is to do nothing and continue to move backwards. And we do that, we're ripe for the picking for annexation by Urbandale, Clive, West Des Moines, or the city of Des Moines, if we do nothing. Door number two.
What would annexation take?
I have no idea what annexation would take.
Because you all are landlocked.
We are landlocked, and so we would be ripe for the pickings for somebody, if they want to take us on, that is. I don't see that as being a positive experience for the citizens of Windsor Heights. But we might share some services and things like that in the future. So that's door number one. We do nothing. Door number two is we continue to raise property taxes in Windsor Heights. It's the second highest property tax community in the metro right now. I don't think that's sustainable. That means that young people can't afford to move to Windsor Heights and older people can't afford to live there. So I'm for door number three. And door number three talks about expanding our commercial footprint, creating something that every town in Iowa, Jonathan, you've been to all 99 counties, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
I've been to every one. Several times.
Yeah, when I was president of the Iowa Junior Chamber of Commerce, that's a long time ago, but I was in all 99 counties as well. And there's something that every Iowa community of 4,900 people, which is the size of Windsor Heights, has that Windsor Heights doesn't have. And that's a main street. We've got a highway that cuts right through the center of Windsor Heights. It's called University Avenue. 2 lanes east, 2 lanes west, a turning lane. People feel like they can speed on that highway because it was built for 40 miles an hour.
They can't speed on that road.
Well, they do. And $1.6 million in traffic fines indicates that they can. They'll get caught.
Is that like the leading fundraiser in Windsor Heights?
Right now it is. But property taxes. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just
So how do we fix that? Well, my vision is that we expand our commercial footprint so that we can assuage the pain of property taxes. This isn't rocket science. You know, why should we abdicate our right to have a main street in Windsor Heights for commuters? I don't think that's, we've got a state highway just a mile north in Hickman. We've got Interstate 235. You want to go on Grand, go on Grand. But let's create a commercial footprint that will expand our commercial basis and housing opportunities along Windsor Heights. Perhaps 1 lane east, 1 lane west, a turning lane, on-street parking, and start to redevelop parts of Windsor Heights so that we bring businesses and services as well as housing up on top. And what the cool thing is, this is already it's already happening. On the corner of 66th and University, the Fulcrum building is about to be built. And it was just inked not too very long ago. And this is going to be a multi-story structure with 2, maybe 3 restaurants. It's got some living quarters there. It's coming. All this is coming. Some people might call this gentrification, and they may be correct. But we've got to find a way to assuage the property tax pain in Windsor Heights. The only way I see to do it is, well, there's 2. We cut services, we cut services to the bone, or we increase our commercial footprint. I think that's the right thing to do. The other thing that I think we need in Windsor Heights that's desperately wanted, I've knocked 1,000 doors as of tonight in Windsor Heights, and I've met people of all different backgrounds. I've met young people, dozens of young people who've moved there under the age of 40 that have moved there in the past year and a half. I've also met people that have been in their homes 30, 40, 50 years. They love Windsor Heights. They want to stay in Windsor Heights. So why don't we give them that opportunity in some type of an adult retirement community or adult community that's in Windsor Heights? I think that makes sense. And we've got places there to build such a facility. It just takes cooperation and forward thinking. My candidacy is all about running for something, not against something. That's what we're doing.
What about 63rd and Hickman?
63rd
that
and
belongs
Hickman.
to Windsor Heights.
Yeah, 63rd and Hickman, there's a corner.
The southwest corner.
Correct. That little space of land was sold to Herd Development Company a number of years ago. And they've developed a senior housing facility up there. They've also developed a Mercy clinic there. And Quick Trip is, I'm told by Richie Hurd, because I talked to him maybe a month and a half ago to get the story. I said, Richie, what are they doing with that? I had heard there was going to be a placemat, just, a placeholder, so they keep Walgreens from building there. And they said, no, Quick Trip's going to go ahead and build on that corner. That will also add to the commercial, but that's about it. University Avenue, that little corner on 63rd and Hickman, and a sliver of land on the other side of 235. That's all we got.
Does one of the solutions then become a vertical community. Part of what the trend, even some bigger cities are trying to get towards, is limiting the vertical expansion. I used to work on Capitol Hill in DC,
Right.
and one of the things DC prided itself on is it didn't have a giant skyline. But does a 2, 3, 4-story vertical expansion, is that a key to potentially increasing revenue in
It could
Heights?
be. It could be, but we have limited places in which to do that right now. I don't know necessarily if vertical expansion up to 4 stories tall would be adequate or be wise in Windsor Heights. I think maybe 3 stories. There's some possibility for that, and there's some places that could be done, but we'll have to see. We've got to get through November 7th and get a positive, progressive city council in place that's going to work for the benefit of all the people there.
Now, you've talked a lot about economic development, and I might not normally ask you this question, but it's my understanding that you also have played a role with the Windsor Heights Chamber.
Yeah, and I still do. I was immediate past president of the Chamber of Commerce in Windsor Heights, serving 2 years in that role, and I was also on the board for a couple of years prior to that. I currently serve, knock yourself out, I'm currently the executive director of the Windsor Heights Chamber of Commerce. We've got 83 businesses in Windsor Heights, and about 56 of them are members. That's not a bad ratio. So yes, I am a paid staffer for the Windsor Heights Chamber.
A paid staffer or the paid staffer?
The paid staffer.
Okay.
At $15 an hour.
Okay.
For a maximum of 50 hours a month.
Okay.
So, yeah. So I'm heavily involved in that.
What should be the relationship between Windsor Heights and the city of Des Moines?
It should be a good relationship. One of the things, because of my involvement in economic development and in community projects and the Chamber of Commerce, the Greater Des Moines Partnership, I know every single one of the mayors in the contiguous communities that surround Windsor Heights and have a good relationship with them. This is a nonpartisan race. And so in West Des Moines and in Clive and in Urbandale and in Des Moines, I know those mayors. I know many of the city council people as well. And I think that we all have to have a positive relationship. And one of the things that we're looking at as contiguous cities is another economic development driver that may come to fruition if we can get the Iowa legislature to move. And that's local option property, or local option sales tax. One of the things that is unique to the Des Moines Metro, and not unique to Perry or Ames or Jefferson or other communities, is that we cannot have a local option sales tax in any of the communities in the Metro unless the legislature uncouples that voting requirement. Today, every community that touches those communities has to vote to the affirmative to have a local option sales tax. Windsor Heights right now sits with one of the busiest Walmarts in all of Iowa. What are we doing? We could utilize funds from a local option sales tax to repair streets and sewers and sidewalks and all sorts of things. And what many people don't know and they don't talk about, who are running for this office, is there's a wonderful plan out there. It's called Destination Windsor Heights. It was approved by the city council in February of this year. Everything from housing to economic development to what streets should be done and when is in that document and the accompanying document. There's been a lot of misinformation, a lot of fear put out there. And I think that people who run for city council, I don't care where you're at, Des Moines or West Des Moines or Urbandale, whatever it is, I think you ought to have had some experience actually working with the city or in the city. I'm pleased to have been part of the Windsor Heights Chamber for a long time. I'm pleased that I've sat on the development committee for Windsor Heights. I'm pleased that I've been able to sit on the special events committee, which, by the way, brings us the 4th of July parade and the festivities, which is the best in the Metro. And those types of things, getting involved and getting your hands dirty, working within the community, I think is important. I only wish that some of my opponents had also seen that opportunity. Sadly, they haven't.
There are a lot of individuals running for.
Oh boy.
For 3 seats.
3 seats, that's right.
I think 9 candidates.
I believe that's correct.
Why should you be one of those 3?
Oh, because my belief is that I'm a progressive, positive person who wants to work for all the citizens of Windsor Heights, my experience is wide and varied. Not only managing budgets that are much larger than the Windsor Heights budget, but also working with nonprofit organizations. You know, one of the things that maybe many people don't know is that this year I'll celebrate my 30th year as being the spiritual leader of Adas Israel Synagogue in Mason City. Every single month I go up there. I spend Friday night, I do services for them. On Saturday, we do a Torah study. And I have divergent people from all different faith groups, from Roman Catholic and Jewish and evangelical and Universalist Unitarian, come to these classes that last 2.5 hours, talking about what unites us rather than divides us. So I think I've got a long history of pulling people together, as well as focusing on positive economic development opportunities. So I think I stand alone, really, among most of the candidates.
We've changed the format of these interviews a bit. In the past, we always did them at the downtown Holiday Inn.
Yeah.
And we had an endorsement panel. We're not endorsing this time around. We're just interviewing candidates. But also one of the unique conversations we have would be about what was going on in Des Moines and the violence and how it might potentially impact the suburbs.
Right.
4 years after the last, city council or cycle, these races were on a 4-year cycle. So there was a race 2 years ago, but
Sure.
but this cycle of races, we've since having those conversations had the murders in Clive, killings in Johnson, and an Urbandale cop, police officer killed. How does a community like Windsor Heights address the potential social issues that might arise in its midst, especially as it relates to issues like drug abuse or violence? How do you keep those wolves at the door?
Right. It's a great question, and it's a multifaceted answer. One of the things about Windsor Heights is that we have the highest police presence per capita of any city in Iowa, which is pretty incredible when you stop and think about it. So why is that so? Well, I think it's public safety and being vigilant about these types of things is very important, and the people of Windsor Heights enjoy that sense of security. So that's the law enforcement side of this. I'd like to see my friends in the law enforcement community, not only in Windsor Heights, but in other places, rest a little. I mean, be a little bit more friendly. It's called community policing, guys and ladies. This is where you actually go out and you interact with people rather than simply write tickets and look stern. I think that would go a long ways to assuage that particular pain. But this is a multifaceted question. It's from law enforcement. Currently, public safety in Windsor Heights uses almost a full third of our budget. All right, so there's a lot in there, and there's a small community. But we have to be on par with the other communities, or else we lose good law enforcement personnel and fire personnel. But the question that you ask is really deeper, because you've talked about social issues that impact the economies of people. I was recently at a funeral, and at this funeral, I was sitting there reflecting on this person's life and the economic opportunities that he offered others. And I happened to sit there and think to myself, I wonder how many people that are in this church today are in this church and they are relieved to be in a community of like-minded souls. But once they step out of that social interaction, they're faced with all kinds of inequity. I think a city like Windsor Heights, which by the way was the first city in all of the metro to pass a resolution to be a welcoming city, no matter your race, color, creed, ethnic origin, you are welcome in our community. I think that's important. And I think that says a lot about Windsor Heights, albeit the speed cameras. So I think that this is an opportunity where we can start to home grow economic chances for people that are coming to our city. Let me give you an example. I just had a conversation with a gentleman from California as part of my Business News Hour. And he was talking about economic development where we don't all go out and try to attract the shiny new object, the Apple, the Google, the Facebook. What we do is we give opportunities to local people who are struggling to make a living. Let's turn individuals who are now dependent into entrepreneurs, and we can do that if we set our mind to it. You know, there's a really interesting thing about Windsor Heights. There's a strip of land about, I don't know, maybe 75 yards. And in that 75 yards is one of only 4 violin and string shops. There is an Arabic barber there. There is a Cambodian tailor there. There is a Frenchman with a restaurant there. I mean, we've got the United Nations at about 75 feet. I think that Windsor Heights is welcoming and can impact the economic delivery process of many individuals if we put our mind to it.
As you know it from being on radio for years, these things go faster than people think.
Amen.
We're out of time.
Out of time. I'm
there
just
anything-
getting started.
Is there anything you want to say that you didn't get a chance to real quick? And then do you want to give people your contact information?
Sure. I would humbly ask for your vote and support on November 7th. I think this is a turning point for all of Windsor Heights. You can find my campaign literature that says I'm running for something, not against. You want to find me on my website, it's michaellibbie.com. That's Libbie, michaellibbie.com. There's a campaign blog there. I chronicle all kinds of conversations that I've had with people from all over Windsor Heights and some of the plans that I think that we might want to take on. michaellibbie.com. All my contact information there. I only have one cell phone and I do answer it.
Okay, thank you so much, Mike.
Thank you. Be well.